Dale, go ahead.
Is there anything I should do to follow up with Mike, or?
No, I wouldn't do that. I'd wait, as much as painful as that is. He runs on a rigid schedule for his business. And, you know, we have to respect that. I guess just to start off, I'll take a few minutes. What made you decide you were interested in this role?
I think, you know, reading articles in the Chronicle and the Times about how our money is being spent here in the town, and I just see some opportunities for helping out with perhaps how those things are driven.
Good. Okay. Okay. All right, we have a reasonably short agenda, thank goodness. Christmas is coming. We shouldn't work too hard before Christmas. The first thing we should talk about a little bit is the Q1 revenues and expenditures. Come on up front. Yeah. You want to lead us through the first quarter and revenues and expenditures?
Did you say you'd like me to review them with you?
Yeah.
Sure. The Excel file that I sent you, the committee has a number of worksheets within that file. One of them is the first quarter expenses, and I provided 2019 budget, actual numbers, and the budget for 2020 with the first quarter expenditures. The outlying item, which is on your agenda, later in your agenda, is the expenses that were associated with the tornado. But other than that, the budget was tracking normal through the first quarter, and I'm happy to review any of the expenses that you wish. I'm not really sure how you would like to proceed. But in addition to the expenses, I provided you with a first quarter report of revenues as well, with the same information, supplementary information for 2019. And you'll see that if you look at the hidden columns, it goes back to, I believe, 2016. So if you wanted to look at additional information, it's just that there's only so much you can print on a page so you can actually see the numbers. But that information is there for you as well. These are summarized by line items, so you won't see, or it's summarized by major expense categories. So you'll see a line item for example, highway salaries and wages. That includes their part-time, year-round staff, their seasonal staff, their regular full-time staff, in addition to their overtime and any other compensatory time that they have expended from their budget. And then the expenses category includes everything from utilities to professional services to office supplies to custodial supplies and things of that nature. And then there's a worksheet, and another worksheet that I provided to you, which is an analysis of free cash for the year ending June 30th, 2019. And I provided this to the Board of Selectmen last year. They liked the format, so I thought I would prepare that again for you and provide that for you as well. That free cash analysis just breaks down what did we budget for revenue, what was actually received, what did we budget for expenses by department, what did we actually spend, what was the balance, what is the difference, and then how do we break down free cash? What made up that almost $1.5 million in free cash, and the components of that? And so it's really, it comes down to 4 or 5 components of free cash. One is surplus revenue. One is one-time revenue that we do not budget for and we're not allowed to budget for. And for example, tax titles that come in. You know that we have placed a significant effort over the past 2 years to collect some back taxes, and the treasurer collector has been doing an excellent job at that. So we had one-time revenues of over $350,000 in FY19. We had budget turnback. So what a budget turnback is, if you have a budget expense, and then what did you actually spend? The difference between those is what we call budget turnbacks. So that's what each department turns back to the town to support free cash.
Is there any effort going on to try to take those under expenditures and translate them in a smaller budget
So
as the budget season goes on?
So the departments were giving budget message or budget instructions from the previous town administrator, and the previous town administrator said, pay very close attention to what your actual expenditures was in 2019, because that's what you should be basing or building your budget from. So not to take 2020's expenditures and add a percentage, but they don't do that anyway. It is not historical at all, and from my knowledge, that the town of Harwich has ever used that method to budget. I provide them with numerous years of actual expenses, and I know that there are a number of departments that take 3 years of actual expenses into account when they're planning their budget for the upcoming year. So just to finish the free cash analysis, we have some other minor categories of grants that if we've expended the grant, let's say it's a state grant, we've expended the state grant, but the state hadn't sent us the money for it by the end of June, that's a ding. We call it a ding to free cash, things of that nature. So that's another category here that's listed on this within this information. I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
No problem. Do you have a point of view on whether we should be at least having some of the budgets take into account previous under expenditures? So, here's the budget from the year before, here's our actual spending this year, and it's significantly under expense. So, is there a case to be made for budgeting that under expenditure so that we can get some of the good spending?
Absolutely.
What would it take to do that?
We are currently doing that right now.
Okay. How big is it?
We have conducted budget meetings with all of the departments.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, it's going to be a very difficult budget year. The interim town administrator on Tuesday held a department head meeting, and his instructions to all of the department heads was to prepare a narrative of reducing the budget to coincide with the Board of Selectmen's budget message, which
Mm-hmm.
says no more than 2%.
Mm-hmm.
And so they are currently in the process of completing that task. And while that may not speak directly to your question, I will tell you that there were a number of collective bargaining agreements that were ratified and approved by the Board of Selectmen that had 6% and 7% increases. So the reduction has to come from somewhere, and whether it's people, I'm not,
And ostensibly, all these dollars being spent by people who really report to the selectmen,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they're the ones who issued the direction. And gosh, not everybody's doing that. Yeah, great. Something to think about, guys. How do we influence this? Okay.
But Carol mentioned that a little budget 101 you did
Yeah.
2 months ago of what the actual makeup of an actual department budget is, and it's close to 80–85% is salary and wages.
Oh yeah, it's been like that for a
Yeah.
long time.
So if you have collective bargaining salary increases coming in at 6–7%, and you get a message from the selectmen at 2%,
Except the selectmen are the ones who approve those numbers,
Yeah, yeah.
and the spending under the contract. Okay, so this is not like, I don't know who did that to me, but Well, I think we know who some suspects are. Right? Thank you.
I got a couple other
Yes.
questions.
Absolutely.
On the tax collection, I know Amy's been really going at that, trying to collect back taxes and stuff,
Mhm.
and it's been very successful. Is there any thought of increasing the hours of this? Is the tax title attorney, she's only, or he, only part-time, aren't they?
It's correct. There's two actually that
Okay.
are working on it. I will certainly speak to them about increasing.
I mean, it's cost effective. I mean, if it costs us $50,000 to hire these two attorneys, and we're getting $300,000 in,
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
cost effective. I know Amy's really diligent at it. I asked her to do it every so
And,
often.
and you can make the same case for land sales, and all the attractive property out there that we don't necessarily have a use for right now.
Yeah.
You know, so it's worth looking into.
And on revenues, Carol, I saw your report, I don't have it with me now. How did the Harvest do this year? I know, I'm talking with John, he was very happy with, with the Snack Shack revenues. That's the first time we've had revenues coming in from them. And I know the transient boat dockage has increased tremendously down there. Do you have a number with that? I don't have one with me.
The town budgeted $885,000 in revenue for harbors, and the actual revenues that came in were $930,000. As you may be aware, there were articles that were presented at prior town meetings that segregated some increases in revenue in harbor to pay the debt.
Yes.
And so that, so all of the revenue is not accounted for here because this is just the operating budget.
Okay.
It's contained within other funds.
Mm-hmm. But revenues were up.
That is all reported to the town through the audited financial statements as well as the annual report that comes out.
Angela?
Excuse me, is that $800,000 is basically then the revenue after the town has taken out 10% or 15% of the top?
Correct.
So it's really, I don't make us think that way, but that's something everybody needs to understand. Because they have brought in whatever that number is, 800,000 plus 15%.
You want to explain that topic, Angela, and speak up a little bit, my friend?
The selectmen a number of years ago set a policy on taking X amount of dollars out of the revenues developed by each department or each activity, and doing basically two things with it, I think. One thing is using it to cover expenses that they could, and the other thing is to use it any way they want, to cover everything that they think needs to be covered. So,
And what's the philosophy behind this 10%?
it's
It's like it's taking money from one and putting it in the other pocket.
Yeah, it's called the free cash policy. I always carry it around because it's fascinating. And it's used for non-recovering expenditures. You can't, that's what they say. I don't think we should be doing this, quite frankly. I think we should be using money, the revenue that is generated, to pay down the expenses of the person generating the thing, and eventually, you cover everything, because we then don't have to give them any funds whatsoever.
So what do you think of the La Mancha policy here that he just articulated?
So the free cash policy is a policy of the Board of Selectmen, and we're required to follow it until that policy changes, and we have followed suit. The policy specifically speaks to one-time expenses. So what's historically been done here in Harwich is many of the capital items that you would see on the capital plan, that 7-year capital plan, can be funded by free cash, such as the proposal that'll come before you to fund a new ambulance with free cash, which is just under, I think it was about maybe $350,000, but I may not have that number correct, perfect. And then many times, free cash will be used to fund snow and ice deficits. You're allowed to budget for your snow and ice, you're allowed to overexpend it, but then at the end of the day, you have to fund it in some manner. And historically here in Harwich, that free cash has also been used to fund OPEB and to fund stabilization funds. So stabilization is kind of your rainy day funds, and OPEB is to fund your future current liabilities.
One of my concerns is that if you're at town meeting and there's a group that covers all their expenses and actually covers it plus some money, and they need to buy some pencils, there's 2 hours of discussions on giving them pencils. And so I think that it's important that people understand that this department is totally covering themselves. This one is too. And if they ask for some pencils that are worthwhile, they should get them. So because I think it's very confusing to people in the audience.
Is there a question in there, or is there a question in there somewhere?
No, I'm just
Okay. Let me try to miss it. John and Tom, what do you think about?
I like the reports, Carol. I did look at them. You sent these out like a month ago, right, or something? Yeah, I did look. I like that.
Okay. Tom, any comments about?
No, I'm just
Handles?
agreeing with John. It's just, they were pretty concise. You could go through, I love the way, if I wanted to, I could go back in history and see what we were spending and then come back to today and kind of compare and contrast, how things move along. So, great report.
One of the things that I reference when I reference internally and when we're talking is the Operations Review Task Force effort that we did about a decade ago, looking at Angelo and Bythwell and I were both on it, basically looking at all the operations and all the processes that we use and watch where's the cash going and so all kinds of stuff. And we were pleased back then that it was in pretty good shape, and everything was above board and so on. People that we talked to generally were up to speed with what they were doing and why they were doing it, and knew where the money was and so forth. And we suggested, the one thing I remember we suggested was that the water department needed to take all the cash out of the bottom drawer and put it in the treasurer's office, I think it was. Yeah, and hopefully that's been done. But they had it wasn't a slush fund because they were using it for out of pocket, but it was not good control. And
We have taken control of petty cash funds,
Yeah.
so that's what you would be referring to.
Yeah.
And they're required to report to us what their petty cash balances are, and we've worked pretty hard over the past couple of years to reduce those in every department,
Yeah,
not just.
good. Not just water. Good. Okay.
So, as the committee is aware, you have charged me with the task of taking some select departments and bringing on all their full costs. And so, about 2 weeks ago, maybe, I had asked the actuarial firm, which is, their name is Siegel, I had asked them in the spring, had to ask them again a couple of times, but asked them to break down the OPEB liability by department. And so they sent me that to me a few weeks ago. I fully loaded many of the departments. The only thing I'm waiting for at this point is DPW to provide me with a breakdown by department of custodial, highway, and building department within their division. And that is all that I'm waiting for. But I think that the committee is going to be extremely surprised by the results that you see. I don't think you're going to expect what you're going to see.
When are we be able to see that?
I mean, I'm happy to provide you with a draft report, knowing that I'm still waiting for DPW to break down. And
Good.
I have that here with me.
I think it would be good for us to have it and take a look at it and so on, and while we await the final version. Okay? Good. All right. Any further? Anything else? No? Good. Any questions from Carol, for Carol at this point?
She's not done with it,
I know. Any further questions?
okay.
John, I know you well enough to know you probably have questions, okay?
I'm done with the expenditures and revenues portion, and I'm waiting for the
No one's got
the
handcuffs on you.
legislative budget update here.
No one's got handcuffs on you. You can ask the questions you want. I'm free and easy on questions. No? Okay. Very good. Carol, as always, thank you for the good work you do. Appreciate it. And I think we ought to make a point with the selectmen about where the money goes, including their money that they authorize. Okay? I don't how you do that and have it transfer, but hopefully they'll be able to get it. Okay. Changing topics. Yeah, I think the last time we talked, the legislators were still talking about the budget reconciliation, and now another month has gone by, and we're still waiting to see if we can get our $50,000 back into the stabilization fund. Has in fact the legislative people completed the reconciliation effort?
Yes.
They have.
It
And
was signed by the governor last Friday.
wow, I had good information.
Wow.
I-
Pretty close.
Yes, the town of Harwich will receive the total amount that they submitted. I think it was $1.2 million.
I'm better connected than I thought I was.
Yes.
Well, that's good. That's good. So what's it look like we're going to get?
1.2, I believe.
1.2? That's okay. How many times over has it been stated who wants what in Harwich? Or
So Harwich was required to submit a request back in maybe August? I think somewhere
yeah,
around
that's about right.
middle of August. A request was submitted. So there was, I think, $3,020,000 that was requested from the entire Cape. 1.2 million was requested from Harwich. And so the entire $3,020,000 was approved, was authorized in the supplemental bill.
Awesome. That's good. Does anything on it say FinCom money, reimbursement?
So I have not recorded your $50,000 reserve
I'm
fund
still
transfer
holding it.
because I thought you would be rescinding your vote.
Okay. So when can we get this back into our account?
So I never removed it from your account.
Okay, you didn't put it into any account.
So,
Okay.
pardon me,
Said you didn't put it in any account,
I didn't touch
like
it.
a holding account, or?
I just put it in a file and put it in a
Okay,
drawer.
good.
You just told us that you take it up, that's all.
But the committee, I think, would need to rescind your vote.
We need to do something with it. Okay. When do you expect that the reconciliation funds that were turned up will reach Harwich in total?
I
Going to
don't
come in
ha-
dribs and drabs? What's going to happen?
I think it's going to come in one full swoop, but one payment, but I don't have a date yet.
One of the things I'm worried about, and I mentioned it to you, was that if we're going to get this money, we want to keep tight records and hands on it and all that, because the slightest little leak in the faucet, and we'll be wondering where it all went. And I don't want to. Personally, I don't want to see that. Imagine you all wouldn't either. So, it'd be good. Anybody? I guess the other comment is if some of our colleagues start to look envious of that pile of money, we need to say no. Right? Good. Great. Any questions about all that? John? John, my
Did the
God.
bulk of what was spent for the tornado, did that come out of the stabilization fund then? Or-
No, so
Where did it come from initially then?
I pulled all of the transactions for the costs that included labor, it included, vendors that the town paid, and I separated them into a separate budget. Well, there was no budget, but a separate
Yeah.
category of expenses, and that's reported on your first quarter expenditures. So right now, it has not come out of, we were waiting for this determination, whether this supplemental bill would be passed. And so we'll be able to fund that with that supplemental bill.
But where did we get the money to pay for the bills?
Well, so you have a grand appropriation
Yeah.
of, 60 X million
Oh, I
dollars.
see, I
So
see.
you have an appropriation.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
Okay.
Everybody's happy? You happy?
Yes.
Excellent. You're happy? Good.
So actually, one quick question. Would you call this then a day against the budget? When you're paying before the grant money comes in?
I suppose you could call it that, because if the money didn't come in, the town would have to make a decision of how they were gonna fund those tornado expenses. But the Board of Selectmen, at their meeting in beginning of August, beginning of August, authorized, if they had to borrow the money. So that would have been an option that they could have chosen, to go out into the market and sell a bond and borrow funds.
But there was no need to do that.
If there was a need, they could have done that. By law, they authorized the correct narrative, resolution to be able to do that.
Good.
But it could have come out of the stabilization fund then too, right?
It could have been voted, I believe, at town meeting to come in on stabilization. Or you could have said to all the departments, you know what,
So for money to come out of the stabilization, it has to be approved at town meeting?
I believe so.
It's
Yes.
not an authorization by the selectmen? I'm just
I
asking.
think-
Yes. It has to be
We'd
authorized.
have to wait a whole
Yeah.
8 months.
Yes, and that's the one problem with emergency funds in that case. Recognize, though, that if the reconciliation bill hadn't got signed by the governor,
Yeah.
we'd be looking to get that 50,000 into the Harwich project numbers, and therefore at some point we'd need to get the money into the budget, or not into the budget, but go to town meeting and so on. So what we want is we want them to get the money out of the state, which we got, and we want to be able to make sure that we put the other, we know you've already done it. We need to know that we've got the funds that are going to have to be asked for if there was any other big expenditure that started to happen. Okay, good. Great. All right, I've got some documents here that you should read in your leisure and get familiar with. This is the Mass Municipal Directory. And somebody asked me about what MMA was. I was that you, I think.
Yes.
And so we talked about that a bit. And, well, this is the manual for the Mass Municipal Association puts out. You should take a look at that. And take it home with you if you're interested. These are the monthly reports. Kind of benefits that we get from the Town Finance Committees Association. Got a book available for download. You should be able to register at the reduced member rate for the annual meetings in October 26th specifically. Some of you had talked about being very interested in going. So you got, as soon as it comes available, you should get signed up for it and so on. Don't stay at the Taj, you can stay at a Holiday Inn. Okay, the Taj. That's a first-class hotel in downtown Boston.
It's the Sheridan.
I know, but that's why I said stay at the Sheraton, don't go there. So anyway,
Was a decision made on that?
take a look at that. Huh?
Was a decision made on who can go and when can they go?
Yes. Right? Can you answer this question?
So during the budget season, about a year ago, at this time, we made a transfer to pull $1,000 out of salaries and wages for the Finance Committee and put them into travel to allow more members to attend. So at this point, I can tell you as of September 30th, the Finance Committee had available to it about $1,800, so in that line item, so you have sufficient, space for folks to attend.
Yeah. The fee for the meeting, I think it was about $100 for starters.
Per person?
Sorry, I was
I
right.
believe it's about $100 or so, just about that.
Yeah.
To sign up to go. And then there's a room that you have to do. Yeah. So I think that $1,800 is enough for the number of people to go, but I think it has to be done carefully, so.
Right. Yeah, this is one of those where the idea is treat your money as it was yours, and frankly it is. There's a lot of nice things people can go out and enjoy downtown Boston and all that, but we gotta make sure we wanna mind our P's and Q's on spending. Okay?
And when is that conference?
It's on the top.
Huh?
It's on the top page.
Those are some of the financials, monthly financial reports.
It'll be the
No, the
October,
MMA.
October 26th, right?
It's January
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
17th or something
yeah.
like that.
Okay, I'm sorry, I read the,
It's sooner than later.
It's January 17th. I think two things have to happen. Somebody has to, whoever's going to handle it, who wants to go, has got to sign up.
Yeah, you gotta sign up.
And you have to do that, and then you probably should go up on a Friday night,
Yeah.
so you can be there for the meeting on Saturday morning.
And then head home.
And then, and then either head home on Saturday afternoon.
Now, you've gone a number of times,
I've been there about 8 or 9 times.
and you went
I
last year?
haven't gone at all. I was
Haven't
going to
gone
go
what?
this year.
Okay, that's right, you haven't gone. Okay, good.
My suggestion is you should go. It's a very worthwhile
Yeah,
thing.
I figured I'd
to
go.
see.
You can sign up online. They will bill the town after the event, if you wish.
So just go to the MMA website or something like that.
And you can also, if you want to stay at the Sheraton, which is fun, I think that you get a special price there also.
Okay.
The Sheraton is where Joanne and I spent our honeymoon 51 years ago. It was very nice. Fortunately, it was cheap. Okay, any further on, just look that information over and pass it around and make sure Jeff looks at it, brings it back. Okay, I have a couple bills that need to be paid, just the two, right? That goes back to you, I think. This is for supplies from W.B. Mason, so it's $41.64. So, just looking at this, there's,
is that the pencils Angela was talking about?
yeah,
Oh, your name tags, probably.
Oh, that's,
yeah, it probably is. Come and take it. Carol, why do I have two of these
There, one is,
for the same account number and so on.
one is for the nameplates and one is for the holders.
Oh, wow.
So it is for them.
Very precise, aren't you?
I would appreciate a motion to approve paying an invoice from WB Mason for 2 nameplates and holders for a total of $83.28. Is that right? Yeah, $83.28. So, I have a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we pay WB Mason $83.28.
I second that.
Any discussion? Oh, okay, thank you. I gotta sign this someplace here. Approved by? Take longer to sign these than it did to take to spend it. See if that's okay. Okay. The next thing I put on here is the selectmen's budget guidance, and I believe they're pushing for 2%. They've pushed numbers in the past in that general range and haven't been able to make it stick. And so I know they're working on that, trying to get that to be the way we're gonna keep spending, budgeting money and spending the money to match the budget and so on. So the question is, and this is personally something I think is important. It's one thing to have a budget guidance, another thing recognizing that during the year things happen. And you need to make smart decisions because you gotta deal with the reality of it. It's one thing to say 2% in January. There's another saying in the deep time of August when everybody and their brothers here wanting to use the beaches and the equipment breaks down, they don't want to hear about budgets. And rightly so. They're the ones making many of us, a living. Well, my general comment is that you shouldn't spend, and you ought to spend, and you shouldn't spend foolishly, but you shouldn't spend the money. You should try to find other ways to do it. You should find alternative equipment, things all good people in management should do. You shouldn't spend one more penny than you have to, but you better spend that penny that's needed, because it won't work if you don't. I have viewed this role as being one of make the right spending decision for the town. Okay? And most of the time that will make sense to everybody. Sometimes somebody out in the world that we deal with, they may say, well, you shouldn't have spent that money. Well, you know, let's just pretend we had a helicopter that landed in the yard and we had to repair the fence that got broken, you know, totally unexpected. And you should spend the money to fix it. Okay, you better find out what's the best numbers that you can. But tell me that it's 2%. The guidance is 2%, but you still got to make the right financial decision for the town. That may not be the same as the 2%. And you know, sometimes people, I think, struggle with that play, you know, back and forth, which is it, which isn't. But you know, go back to the basic thing. What would you do if it were yours? All right. So Jack Brown's financial background from P&G. But you know, and the example I'll give you is, and there are different spins on this board. But for example, the Lower County project, road project. The reality is that some people didn't want to spend the money, some people were willing to spend the money. At the end of the day, the not spending carried the day. And in the meantime, we've got to make sure that we don't do that too often, because it's going to cause problems downstream. All right? Angela?
Jack, a question. The 2% that they're talking about is the tax increase.
Yes.
That's right. But there's other sources of funds.
Yes.
And I don't know why, or I don't know if they are looking at the other sources of funds, because fees, wherever they, to get them to cover things. And I think that's very important, because I know that there are a number of departments that are in the hole, and they're paid for by other options. They're not covered. They're not golf. They're not the waterways. And they're not the water department. I mean, all of those are covered. But there are other departments that I think have to take a look at what they do during the year, because they should be doing it within the money that they can either generate or get from the town in a recognized manner. Because otherwise, there's no way in hell we can cut the tax rate or cold.
Yeah, good point. Good point. You know, one of the, I don't know, is there money to be made in the bond market these days or not, but, you know, we should be looking at every possible source of revenue and every possible source of underspending. How would we underspend $100,000 in budget X? Okay, we should be asking ourselves questions like that. Okay, if we don't ever look at those kind of things, we're not going to know what the potential is and what we could have done. And then we don't, you know, like Angela was saying, we don't end up spending money the way we should, the right way.
Jack?
Okay, yes, Angela.
Excuse me.
Speak up.
I think at the last meeting, the selectmen approved a fee increase for the golf commission. I believe they did. And it was very interesting, because the golf group got up and they said, here's what we need, here's how much we generate, here's what we plan to do with this. And it was a very simple thing for the selectmen to approve. But we tend not to do that in other areas. Nobody knows how much they're spending to do this, or they just do it. And they don't know what they're doing. I think, you know, yeah, I think one of the things you should do is a suggestion, is you need to sit with the finance director and understand how our accounting system works. Because I wish you good luck.
Should you get appointed?
Yeah.
You can do it as a citizen too, for that matter, but.
And it's a very complicated situation, and that's why a lot of times at town meeting, the residents have absolutely no idea what impact the numbers are having. And I think that has to come out in the open. Because I sat through last year's meeting, and it wasn't a lot of fun at all. And I'm afraid it's going to be similar or worse than last year.
It could be worse.
And I think it makes much more sense for us in the selectmen to try and get the best budget possible, whatever that is, that we need, and have the facts out there for everybody. Otherwise, I think it's going to be a disaster.
Well, you know, we need to follow our vote into town meeting. The reality is, if we vote 8-0 on 10 items, then we've got to say that that is our that is our recommendation, that not any one of you individually. And we've got, when we get ready to make the motions and then respond to based on those motions, we've got to stand up together. And we have to obviously make sure we're doing what's right for the town. Okay, but we can't walk away from the direction we jointly agreed on. Okay? Hopefully by then we have 2 more people too. I'm counting on your being available, so.
3 people, we're down 3.
Yeah. Hard to keep track of, I'll tell you. Every day I try to figure out how can I get to Mike, you know, because he's so busy. Okay, anything else? I think that covers the agenda. Okay. And Carol will hang around long enough to let us out?
Of course.
Thank you. It won't take long.
Do you have a meeting on Monday?
Yeah.
As far as I know, we have a meeting on Monday with Selectmen.
And what's the meeting about?
It is a joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen to review the capital outlay plan.
Capital outlay, okay. So will capital outlay be there then?
I think it's set up as just a joint meeting between, they may be there,
Okay.
but they're not, I don't know that they're posting a meeting,
Okay.
that they'll all be in
Can I
attendance,
see that
but we have asked the chairman to be there.
Okay.
December, Monday the 9th.
Well, it says anytime in, if you look, it says anytime in December according to charter.
Okay.
I have one, but I don't know how, if things have changed.
Okay.
They're just making,
Well,
get the last Monday of the month,
Yeah,
which I won't be here.
okay. All right.
Is this upcoming Monday?
Send it out.
Yes. Okay, this is a posted meeting, and I don't know that votes would be planned. There's nothing that we've planned for, so if you can make it, that would be good. A show of force. If you can't, that's understandable. The town administrator, the assistant town administrator this morning, I called to see if he was going to be coming to this meeting. Secretary called back, Patty, and said that he can't make it, he's gonna be out of town or something like that with his family. And it's like, yeah, right, you know, family first. Let's do it the right way.
It's just discussion, we're not voting on anything.
No, I don't think so, not.
No.
I've not been asked about anything, and I haven't heard any contrary.
I believe the public hearing for capital outlay plan is scheduled for the first Monday evening in January.
Yeah, January 6th.
Okay, motion,
I'd like to make a motion that we
Adjourn?
adjourn.
is there a second? Yes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So, see some of you Monday night, and if we
I'll be
don't,
there, Jim.
if we don't, Merry Christmas anyway.
Merry Christmas.
I will email this document, this draft
Take that
document to
look at it, give it
everyone,
to
is that
us.
okay?
That would be great.
Come.
Yeah, on Monday. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think I look at my calendar.